Hello, listeners, and welcome back to the Digestible Podcast. I'm Melissa, here with my sister, Staci, and we're here to bring you all the health and wellness information you need in the amount of time that your busy day can handle, and we make it easily digestible. How did I do, Staci?
You did great. That was her first intro.
All right, everybody. All right, Staci, who do we have today?
So today we have with us Mitch Taylor. Mitch Taylor is an account executive with Orthomolecular Products. He earned his Bachelor of Science degree in biology from the University of Tampa. He spent 5 years serving in the U.S. Army. And for the past 3 years, he's been with Orthomolecular, which is a professional grade supplement company that works exclusively with healthcare providers to deliver evidence-based, high-quality nutritional solutions. At Orthomolecular, they are focused on rigorous testing, research-backed formulations, and strong practitioner education so clinicians can feel confident in what they're recommending. And so when we talk on the podcast about medical grade supplements, Orthomolecular is a great example of one of those that we truly love. And today we're going to talk about all sorts of cool things, Missy. What am I talking about?
Yeah, so I was feeling a little under the weather, and so Staci took over and had a great interview with Mitch, and they talked about detoxing, which is like kind of controversial, but I don't know. After listening to the interview you had with Mitch, I'm really understanding how detoxes actually work, which is like empowering all of our natural systems to work at their best, which is amazing. So we hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you, Staci, and thank you to Mitch. And enjoy.
Hey, Mitch, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Staci, thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely. I am so excited to talk to you today about all things detox, which is a hot topic and also, I think, good information for people to have.
Likewise, I'm super excited.
So, okay, let's take it down to the basics. When we say detox, what are we talking about? And is a cleanse a detox? Start us off at the beginning.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, especially to start off, because there is a relatively large misunderstanding about kind of that phrase detox, or I'm doing a detox or doing a cleanse. When we talk about detoxification, that is accurately describing if somebody's refraining from paraphernalia, alcohol, any sort of very popular toxins, nicotine, XYZ. But in the work that we do and, what we support is the process of biotransformation. So a lot of people say detoxification when they mean biotransformation. And so to take that even a step further, when we're doing a cleanse, we're focusing on what we're ingesting. We're probably choosing perhaps healthier options. That's, of course, going to be a great step in the right direction, but supporting biotransformation is very determined, it's very particular, and it's very specific, if that kind of helps.
Okay. So a juice cleanse is not in the same category as a biotransformation, which is what we're saying when we say detox.
Correct. I think it's in the right step,
Okay.
but not necessarily going to achieve the same results that people might be looking for.
Okay. So let's maybe start with the phases of this biotransformation and what happens in our body when we are doing a quote unquote detox.
So essentially, there are 3 phases to biotransformation, or quote unquote detox. You've got phase 1, and we can think of that as activation. There's a specific enzyme class that's called cytochrome P450, or CYP, that really mobilizes all of our fat stores, or where the toxins are being kept all nice and neatly bundled in. And that begins this entire process. So once the CYP, or that first activation phase, kind of kicks off, that then brings us to the second phase, and this is called conjugation. So conjugation is a nice fancy word for combining these toxins with other elements or amino acids or nutrients to prepare them for the elimination process, which is phase 3. And that's where we actually release these toxins out of the body, whether that's through sweat, whether that's feces or urine. We're getting these these toxins out of the system. And it goes through that process in order.
Okay, so activation, we're activating the CYP. Is that something we already have in our body or something that we have to consume to start this process?
Yeah, so CYP is naturally ingrained into us. And funny enough, is actually activated by essentially everything. So we do also have something that I'm sure that we'll talk about in a little bit here, but we have external toxins that we are exposed to from the environment or what we're eating. And then we have internal toxins. So I know that we've talked a lot about hormones on this platform, on this podcast. And when we are actually using up those hormones, they have to go through the liver and then eventually be removed. It's just like in your house, if you're throwing out trash, you use whatever you're going to use, put it in the trash, and then you got to take the trash out. So we produce toxins internally as well. In that same sense, yes, CYP is internal to us. It's very energy demanding. And so, you know, for some of the listeners that are out here, they might be familiar with the MTHFR gene, which impacts the energy production at the cellular level. And so for those that, and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, in a little bit, but might be some of the prime candidates for considering dedicated biotransformation support, that program will specifically help CYP 450. But nicotine, alcohol, the good foods, the bad foods, everything is stimulating CYP. The medications that we take is stimulating CYP 450.
Okay. So then what would you say to people who are like, my liver knows what to do? Like, as a human, my body, like, all the parts have jobs. And so my liver should be naturally detoxifying itself all the time. Why do I need to do a detox?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And, you know, I was just kind of thinking through this a little bit of like an analogy. And so like for us sitting here today, when we go to work, we know how to do the work. We've been doing this our entire lives. We know how to do this. But now if I don't have my keyboard, or I don't have my hammer, or I don't have my tool, or the things that support what I'm supposed to be doing, how effective am I at doing that? Essentially what I'm tying here is that the liver requires specific nutrition in order to go through this, again, super energy demanding process. So we absolutely know how to do it. The body does it very well, evolutionarily speaking. But if we're not getting the proper nutrients, we are not doing a good enough job.
Okay. And then what is it that we're detoxing? When we say, I'm going to do a detox, like when you hear people say they want to do detox, or you have a doctor recommending a detox for a patient, who are they for and what are they trying to detox? I assume there's like a wide range.
Yeah, that is super accurate. Kind of the initial is that 95% of people probably should do a detox. I mean, for a lot of the things that you've talked about on this podcast as well, there's a huge concern around nutrient depletion, not only caused by medications, but also by modern day farming techniques and technology. And luckily, we live in a society where we have not only the most amount of access to food, but I mean, just look at the Super Bowl. We have the most amount of stimulation to go get that food. So living in this world it can be complex, and it can be like, what am I supposed to do here? Typically, what we see in clinical literature is that the body's actually kind of shifting with the year, corresponding with the seasons. As we move from spring and summertime, we notice that we're a lot more active. Perhaps this is a nice time where we're losing weight. And we see that, you know, energy demands are a little bit higher. As we move into like the fall and the winter, everybody slows down a little bit. We start to just kind of relax. We do a lot more resting and digesting. And so we do also recommend that people are considering supporting that process of biotransformation potentially up to 4 times per year, for whoever can do what they can.
So quarterly with the seasons?
Correct.
To help the body kind of change with the seasons.
Exactly.
Okay. I've also heard a couple of experts say that they like women, particularly who are perimenopausal, menopausal, or about to go on hormone replacement, to do a detox first before approaching hormone use. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Why? Why would they recommend a
Yeah.
detox?
Yeah, so this is a really near and dear kind of topic for myself as well. And a lot of the clinicians that I work with, they do offer hormone optimization medications, treatments, care plans to their patients. And essentially, it's a little bit of an indirect way, but by getting the patient on a healthy baseline, coming in, perhaps they haven't spoken with their practitioner in some time, they're feeling sluggish, they're feeling that brain fog, they've noticed the weight kind of come on. A lot of times by optimizing the liver, which is where a lot of hormones are also being manufactured or produced or eliminated, we see that by starting with the liver functionality, that optimizes the end result for whatever the patient and the practitioner is looking to accomplish.
Okay, so it's almost like they will get better performance out of the hormones if they kind of start with, I don't want to say a clean slate, but like an optimized body.
Yeah, I think that's super super fair to go with. Yeah.
Okay, and do detoxes remove environmental toxins, or to what extent can they?
Yes. So this can become a very involved and comprehensive conversation. But if we think about it at its basic levels, again, that the built-in filtration system that we all have is our liver. And there's plenty of other organs that are within that renal system that support that removal process. But everything that we put on our hair, that we put on our skin, that we breathe in through our respiratory system, that we ingest, all of that, for the most part, is going to come into contact with the liver. And so a lot of those toxins are already being removed. I mean, if the liver wasn't working at all, we kind of run into catastrophic failure. So we are doing that, but now the question is, how well are you doing that? Are you now experiencing some of these telltale signs of perhaps less than optimal liver function? Fatigue, brain fog, a disbalance in some of these more popular hormones. And then a big one is weight accumulation.
So, for just like a regular person out there, should they do a detox, and why? What would you expect to feel like or look like or have happen after a 7-day, a 14-day, a 21-day detox? Will you kind of walk us through like what we would expect at the end? And then I'd love to move into like talking about what happens throughout the process of the detox.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we're perhaps going to touch on that second part a little bit, but I'll kind of hit the wave tops here. And so, one of your questions earlier is, who should do a detox? Honestly, the answer there is most everybody. Kind of the considerations that a lot of my practitioners that I work with have when they are, making that determination is pregnant or breastfeeding patients, anybody that's experiencing maybe any sort of active illness, or for those that might have significant liver or other renal organ system complications. Just a second thought as well. As we're going into a biotransformation program, we want to make sure that the patient is getting optimal amount of nutrition or vitamins and minerals. So we don't usually recommend taking away or restricting any sort of diets. But when we go through the process, and for the vast majority of people, what are some of the telltale signs that this is actually impacting the overall health? We see a significant improvement in sleep. We know that sleep is extremely disturbed by systemic inflammation or blood sugar dysregulation, a reduced inflammatory load, improvement in energy, mood, and brain function. And then we also see a couple of these other biomarkers that, for cardiometabolic purposes, get drastic improvements.
Okay. And I can speak from my own personal experience that when I have done a 7-day detox, I noticed after those first couple of days of it being like a little tough, of just making some changes and how my day to day is going, that I did notice quite quickly that my sleep improved, my mood improved, my energy improved. And so then I stayed on the detox. I did another 7 days. And then I'm like, I still feel so good. And I did another 7 days. And then I went off. But I found it fascinating how good I felt. So why don't you walk us, or for people who've never done this before, what would a biotransformation process look like? Like, what would we be consuming? What would we be consuming, both food, drink, supplement wise? What gets restricted? Take us through like the process for someone who's like never seen one or done one before.
Yeah, sure. So if anybody's kind of drifted at this point right now, lock in for a second. The material does get a little bit intense, but like we're talking about, we really bring it back down to the basics. So just like in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and for any of those that are watching along here, I'm going to share this graphic with Staci. But essentially, we want to focus on those very specific minerals or vitamins that are shown to improve the liver's ability to actually function. So kind of some fun facts here about the liver is that it's about the size of a football. So maybe like a Nerf football, can weigh anywhere between 3 to 5 pounds. And in each hepatocyte, or each cell in the liver, contains anywhere between 1 to 3,000 mitochondria. So if we kind of bring it back to high school, thank you, Bill Nye. What is the mitochondria? It's the powerhouse of the cell. This is what's actually producing all of the energy or the fuel that the liver needs to go through this super energetically demanding process. So ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So that's going to be the active form of cellular energy. It's like what we need to make all of the cells work. B vitamins, glutathione, magnesium, glycine, taurine, glutamine. These are all just a couple of examples, and all of them are going to be listed on the graphic that I share. But those are all going to help essentially in each phase of that biotransformation process, make sure that that system runs as smoothly and efficiently as possible to help get the results that Staci was just talking about, or a lot of these practitioners are looking for their patients.
Okay, so that sounds really cool. And I can't believe I have like an organ that's the size of like a football inside of me. I'm trying. that feels large. Okay, so we're going to use all these things to activate the ATP. How are we actually doing that? Like, what am I allowed to eat and drink on this biotransformation process? What are you taking from me and what are you giving me?
That's a great question there. And so oftentimes in a dedicated process, again, we want to limit the amount of toxins that we're exposing ourselves to. So we want to essentially focus our diet in avoiding some of these pro-inflammatory foods, or foods that are going to cause the inflammation that everybody's talking about, that, inside is on fire. Well, usually we see that dairy, gluten, carbs, refined sugars, these are all going to be foods that are recommended to avoid while you're on this very dedicated process to at least allow perhaps a reset to happen for the liver.
Okay.
Another kind of fun fact there, if you don't mind, is that through our lifetime, we eat about 100 tons of food. That goes through your stomach, which is about the size of your fist, over your lifetime, and then all of that is filtered through the liver. So perhaps a little bit of intermittent fasting, a higher quality source of food that we're looking to choose from, and then providing, again, that targeted nutrient support for liver function. That is the recipe, essentially, that we look for in any of our dedicated biotransformation programs.
Okay, so you're taking out the inflammatory foods that we know to be like gluten and dairy, and sugar. Caffeine? Like, for me, it's not a problem, but some people are going to be like, don't take away my coffee. Are we taking away the coffee?
So you and I both are going to get under attack for this one. Yes, funny, perhaps depressingly enough, caffeine, nicotine, alcohol.
It's all coming off the table. But it's only 7 days or 14 days, depending what you're doing. Sometimes 21.
Exactly. And I also think that, there's even more considerations here too. A lot of the patients or a lot of the people that might be tuning in here, like, oh, I actually have perhaps type 1 diabetes, or I have, this consideration for my diet that I have to have. I need this. These are recommendations at the end of the day. It's not going to disqualify you from doing a program like this. But even in the same sense that we were talking earlier about the difference between a cleanse or a biotransformation program, that at least we're making the proper steps to improve. At the end of the day, if we're making improvement, I don't think anybody can be upset with that, in my opinion.
Okay. And is green tea off the table, or is it in the program? Like for those coffee drinkers, like can we give them a substitute, or it's no caffeine?
So the target there is caffeine. So if there is caffeine, and that, it significantly impacts the patient's lifestyle or day, again, however we're making those improvements, that's the primary focus. But yes, so green tea, coffee, etc., a lot of these different sources.
So day one, what do I get to eat on day one of a detox, let's say?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And then, just kind of thinking through this, I'm also going to share with you a little bit more information that you can share with the crowd.
Yeah.
And it's actually a list of recipes that we've curated for patients to consider to help improve their results while staying on this dedicated program. However, what we recommend is at the professional grade nutraceutical company that I represent, that the first 2 days are actually a fast. And so I get it. People are gasping. They're not, who is this Mitch guy? He's telling me I got to do what? We just talked about it. If we think about all of the exposure that over our lifetime that we put on not only our stomachs and everything that's connected to that, but also the liver, if we can make it work for the first 2 days where we are staying on a consistent fast and allowing the liver and the other organs to clean up what's already there, drastic, impactful outcomes for the patients that do go through the fast compared to those that don't.
So you're just trying to give the organs a break. You're saying let's just give them a break. But does that mean that we're eating nothing?
No, not eating nothing.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay, because 48 hours sounds like a lot.
And I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to do there? So essentially what we offer is a combination of a pseudo kind of meal replacement shake. So that's going to have 15 grams of protein, 8 grams of fiber, and only 1 gram of sugar. I will say, and I'll ask you here, but this shake actually tastes delicious.
And it does. I can attest to that.
we also provide a simplified supplement regimen to go along with that in order to achieve some of those dietary requirements throughout the day to make sure that we are still supporting all organ systems. Because again, that's the whole problem that we're talking about, is that there's not enough nutrients in the common food that we're coming exposed to, right? So if the recommendation is to go on a fast, well, now there's 0 nutrients that are going in. But in a dedicated program like ours, we not only give the patients the different recipes to utilize on that program, but then we also do optimize those results through supplementation.
Okay, so your body's still getting the nutrients it needs, but just not all the food that you normally consume. And should people who are doing the detox then like scale back their regular supplements and just kind of give themselves over to the process of the supplements that you're taking within the detox?
That's an awesome question. And at the end of the day, I always recommend that work with your practitioner. Your practitioner knows your history. They know where you are and where you want to go. And so they're always going to be the first line of education, or at least advice, that the patient could receive.
Okay, so for 2 days, we are just doing a meal replacement. And and we're staying away from, well, for those first 2 days, we're staying away from food. And then we are getting some supplements. And then what happens after those 2 days?
Yeah, so we have, through years of being in this industry and then also working with our practitioners, we want to make sure that we're also, listening to the voice of our practitioners and what's working well, or perhaps what's not working so well, as far as compliance for patients or for people that are looking to optimize their health, but are having struggles with, taking 20 supplements a day, not eating for X amount of days. And so in our dedicated program, you can either choose from a 7-day or a 14-day program. Both of those programs entail that 2-day fast. So then you've got either 5 or 12 additional days, where we then strongly suggest following these recipes. And I don't know if you have a favorite one here, but my girlfriend still makes the pina colada smoothies, and we enjoy our healthy pina coladas from time to time.
And on Missy's behalf, I have to ask this question. So when you get to eat, is it encouraged for the food to be organic, regenerative? Do you have that health component in there as well? Like, is there concern about what might be on or in the foods that we're going to consume?
Yeah, and that is truly where the rubber meets the road, because the question is, like, what are we doing after this program as well? And so that's why I love listening to the show. I mean, especially the topic of conversation on regenerative farming. My gosh, I couldn't agree more. I always try to look for that when I can, whenever that's available. But absolutely. So the program that we have, it comes with that handbook to help educate and then inform the patient. And it does cover all of that information as far as, hey, what's the Clean 15? What's the Dirty Dozen? What is biotransformation? And then what do these recipes look like? It comes with all of that information included in the program.
So days 3 and beyond, you're allowed to eat food. Are you still doing a shake or 2 shakes every day, right? Is it?
Yeah, that's correct. In our program, you've got 2 shakes that are going to be 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. A lot of the practitioners that I work with are also even recommending intermittent fasting, and so this is a great way to get the nutrients, feel full, and if you are doing that intermittent fasting and you're waiting to eat until 12, 1, 2 o'clock, whatever it might be, this is an awesome opportunity to kind of get that satiation that you might be looking for, that feeling of fullness, while maintaining your fast. And then per day, it's about 8 capsules that patients are taking of our...
So tell us about that other capsule that gets brought in after the first 2 days. What's in it and what is it doing? That's the one that's supporting the liver, correct?
Yeah, that is absolutely correct. And all 3 of these products are actually kind of in their own respect, supporting all 3 of those phases. So in this program, the very first thing that we experience around those first 2 days is going to be that meal replacement shake. That has it has that 15 grams of protein, the 8 grams of fiber, and the 1 gram of sugar that's in that. But it also has this very cool branded material that's called Vita Veggie. So that Vita Veggie blend is actually what phase 2 requires to work at an optimal level. The other 2 products that we have there, one is focused on that mitochondria. We talked about it, that football that's kind of just sitting in our stomach, super dense in that mitochondria. And this second product directly feeds that super important organ that's within our cells. And then it optimizes how we produce that energy. And then finally, we have a product that is designed to reduce the inflammation that occurs during biotransformation that can be pretty inflammatory if the proper nutrients aren't included into that process.
Okay. Wow. So it sounds like there's a lot going on there. And then the hope is at the end of the 7 to 21 days, depending what type of detox you're doing, that you are sleeping better, your energy's better, your mood is better. And then is there an expectation that people will continue eating this way to continue feeling better?
That is the challenge. Essentially, when we take a look at this program, yes, in the immediacy, we do see very strong impacts on some of these markers that practitioners are looking to improve for their patients. We're seeing an immediate change in the lifestyle and habit of the patient, but really, it is a lifestyle changer in a box if you allow it to be.
Okay.
Feel the way that you feel, experience the perhaps improvements that we see on an average people getting, and then perhaps consider that kind of moving forward.
Okay. So here's a question. So there are a lot of medical grade, physician grade, nutraceutical, detoxification, biotransformation products on the market that are developed by doctors, well vetted by physicians, recommended by physicians in their offices, and are being done on kind of a more monitored basis. And then the patient has a resource, right, to communicate with their physician if they have questions. How about for everybody else out there that wants to just do a detox? Are there red flags that people should look for? Like, you probably shouldn't just go pick up a detox at your local store. And social media is filled with people detoxing and cleansing and all these things. Like, are there red flags out there that people should just be aware of? Or should it be something that's only done with under the supervision of a physician?
Yeah, that's a really big consideration, and quite frankly, a pretty big issue within the supplement space. And so since that's where I essentially operate in, I can tell you from firsthand experience that, the issues around fraud or counterfeit products are extremely rampant. I get the opportunity to work with a family-owned practice that's been around for 37 years. Our mission is to help transform the practice of medicine, and we do that by working with practitioners. And so, honestly, the rule of course, everything that has to be done has to start with education. We all have to go figure out, hey, what is this? Let me go figure this out. A lot of PubMed, a lot of ChatGPT, and then a lot of double-checking ChatGPT. But at the end of the day, the practitioner is the one with the experience. The practitioner is the one that went through and received the training, and then they have the experience to say, hey, I've used this, I've used that, I've found this, and I found that. Of course, there's so many things that are out there. The FDA doesn't necessarily regulate the actual contents of the products. What the FDA really focuses on is, protecting the public from false statements. But everything else from there is kind of the Wild West. And so, yeah, doing your homework, understanding what is this company? What does this company stand for? What are their morals? Where are they getting their products? Or at least what's the idea that's there? So really just drilling down on the education and then getting that professional advice through the practitioner.
Okay. So maybe detoxes should not be taken lightly just by the average person picking something up at the drugstore or wherever they happen to be.
I would strongly suggest getting the second kind of opinion from a medical professional, especially if there's, depending on the situation. A cleanse might be the right answer, but if we're looking for a dedicated program, absolutely talking to the professionals that are out there.
Okay. And as we always talk about on this podcast, like, we are very firm believers in medical grade nutraceuticals, because you have companies that, because the FDA doesn't well regulate, you have companies that are dedicated to really making sure that their ingredients are pure, well researched, and safe.
Exactly. Couldn't say it better.
And that you're not just paying for nothing, because a lot of times you are paying for filler if you're just buying something cheap and off the shelf. And that would be the best case scenario, that you're just paying for filler versus paying for something that actually could make you unwell.
It's pretty terrifying out there. Kind of one of the there's an entire section dedicated on Amazon to supplements and wellness, and then just as many kind of claims of people receiving products even from the company that they know. It comes out like, hey, maybe this is more convenient, and that's fair. That happens. It's just now, if it's not coming directly from that company, where is it coming from? And that's the issue that we have today.
Yeah. And it can be scary.
A little bit.
Mitch, thank you so much for talking to us about detox. As we're having this conversation, I'm already planning my next one. It's been a while, and I think I'm probably due for a good detox myself. So I got to pick my
Let me know
weeks.
when you start. Let me know when you start. We'll do it together.
All right, sounds good. That's a deal. So before we close up, we like to ask our guests 2 questions. The first one being, if there was one takeaway that you could give to our listeners, or an action item, something to take from today's episode, what would that be?
Challenge yourselves. Give yourself a goal, and whether it's in your lifestyle, in your diet, or making that jump, give it a go. Say it out loud, and give your best try. Give your best try at it. Whatever we do, as long as we're making progress, we're going in the right direction.
I love that. That's a good one. And we also like to ask our guests. So here at the Digestible Podcast, we always say, don't panic, just pivot. Is there a pivot or a small change you've made in your life that you're proud of that you'd like to share with us?
I would absolutely love to share that I actually just finished my Core Restore Detox.
Congratulations!
My detox program. Yeah, absolutely. And, I know that day to day, it's impossible to avoid all of these things that we come into contact with. So anytime I do one, it's a significant emotional uplifter. And so I'm glad I have the energy to be here today.
Well, congratulations. That's wonderful. And thank you for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Staci. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Digestible Podcast with today's guest, Mitch Taylor of Orthomolecular. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share us with others. It's the best compliment you can give us. If you have questions or comments or ideas, please email us at info@digestiblestrategies.com. We look forward to hearing from you, and remember, don't panic, just pivot. The content shared on this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. We are not medical professionals, and the views expressed here are not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any health conditions. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider before making any health-related decisions.